Hare Krishna, everybody. Nice to see so many faces here. Some of you are new to me. So if you are here for the first time, I especially welcome all of the new ones. Yes, Hare. Okay, so I've been asked to say something about the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. And then we always read a verse from the Bhagavad Gita, which is one of the main books that we have in the Krishna consciousness movement. However, I would like to make a small introduction by reading a few verses from a small book, which is a collection of verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam. And it is about hearing about God. So, I will read here. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, the super soul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. As soon as irrevocable loving service is established in the heart, the effects of nature's modes of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankering, disappear from the heart. Then the devotee is established in goodness, and he becomes completely happy. Sounds nice to me. Thus established in the mode of unalloyed goodness, the man whose mind has been enlivened by contact with devotional service to the Lord gains positive scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead in the stage of liberation from all material association. Thus, the knot in the heart is pierced and all misgivings are cut to pieces. The chain of fruitive actions is terminated when one sees the self as master. So this is just by hearing about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So today I thought we should focus on a subject, and the subject today is God. It's a pretty big subject, but we are very fortunate because in the Vedic literatures, like the Bhagavad Gita and Ishopanishad and so many others, there is so much information about God. And as we heard, simply by hearing, we can get so much purification in the heart and have our consciousness elevated out of the material darkness. All right. So today's verse from the Bhagavad Gita is from the 4th canto, which is called Transcendental Knowledge, and the verse is number 9. This is a very famous verse. Srila Prabhupada, he quotes this verse again and again in his lectures and in his books, and his writing his commentaries. So I will just read first the Sanskrit, and we can go on with the translation. First, however, I have forgot, we should invoke the blessings of the Lord by chanting the mantra. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So the verse is Janma Karma Chame Divyang evam yo vetitattvataha Chaktvadeham punarjama naitima meti sojona. Alright, so we don't have any problem. So I will just read the translation. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. This is Krishna talking to his friend Arjuna. I will read the verse once more. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. And purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Lord's descent from his transcendental abode is already explained in the 6th verse. One who can understand the truth of the appearance of the personality of Godhead is already liberated from material bondage, and therefore he returns to the kingdom of God immediately after quitting this present material body. Such liberation of the living entity from material bondage is not at all easy. The impersonalists and the yogis attain liberation only after much trouble and many, many births. Even then, the liberation they achieve, merging into the impersonal Brahma Jyotir of the Lord, is only partial, and there is a risk of returning to this material world. Okay, I'll shoot in a small comment there. Srila Prabhupada explains other places that the persons, the transcendentalists who attain this Brahman liberation, they will eventually fall down again to material existence. That is because in this Brahman liberation, although there is a sense of happiness there, still there's no activity going on there. There's no variegatedness, there are no relationships, it's just pure being and a sense of happiness. But because the innermost nature of the living entity is to be active, to have relationships, to be engaged in loving exchanges, this actually becomes boring. Yes, just being, just being and just feeling this happiness, it's not much. So eventually that spirit soul will again come down to material existence to experience relationships, activities, variety, and so on. All right. But the devotee, simply by understanding the transcendental nature of the body and activities of the Lord, attains the abode of the Lord after ending this body, and does not run the risk of returning to this material world. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated that the Lord has many, many forms and incarnations. Advaitam Achyutam Anadi Mananta Rupam. Although there are many transcendental forms of the Lord, they are still one and the same personality of Godhead. One has to understand this fact with conviction, although it is incomprehensible to mundane scholars and empiric philosophers. As stated in the Vedas, Eko Deva Nitya Lila Nuraktam Bhakta Vyapi Ridyantaratma. The Supreme One, the one Supreme Personality of Godhead, is eternally engaged in many, many transcendental forms in relationships with his unalloyed devotees. Unquote. This Vedic version is confirmed in this verse of the Gita, personally by the Lord. He who accepts this truth on the strength of the authority of the Vedas and of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and who does not waste time in philosophical speculations, attains the highest perfectional stage of liberation. Simply by accepting this truth on faith, one can, without a doubt, attain liberation. The Vedic version, Tattvam Asi, is actually applied in this case. Anyone who understands Lord Krishna to be the Supreme, or who says unto the Lord, "You are the same Supreme Brahman, the personality of Godhead," is certainly liberated instantly, and consequently his entrance into the transcendental association of the Lord is guaranteed. In other words, such a faithful devotee of the Lord attains perfection, and this is confirmed by the following Vedic assertion. Tameva vidit rati mrityum eti jnanya anta vidate yanaya. One can attain the perfect stage of liberation from birth and death simply by knowing the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and there is no other way to achieve this perfection. From Shvetashvatara Upanishad. That there is no alternative means that anyone who does not understand Lord Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead is surely in the mode of ignorance, and consequently he will not attain salvation simply, so to speak, by licking the outer surface of the bottle of honey, or by interpreting the Bhagavad Gita according to mundane scholarship. Such empiric philosophers may assume very important roles in the material world, but they are not necessarily eligible for liberation. Such puffed up mundane scholars have to wait for the causeless mercy of the devotee of the Lord. One should therefore cultivate Krishna consciousness with faith and knowledge, and in this way attain perfection. And again, I will read the verse. Janma karma cha medivyam evam yoga titatvataha tappadeham punajamana itimam Arjuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Yes, okay. So in this purport, Srila Prabhupada is quoting from the Brahma Samhita that the Lord has many forms. Actually it says Ananta Rupa. It means unlimited forms. So we should try to understand God as much as possible. Of course we are limited, we are small living entities, and our brains are a little limited. So we cannot understand everything about God, obviously, because God is unlimited. Nevertheless, there is so much information that is given in these Vedic scriptures. Well, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is telling so much about himself. We can also find in other scriptures. There was this other verse. I will quote also. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan. So these are three different features of the absolute truth. These are three different ways that God is manifested. And I will read a little more here. So first we will say something about this Brahman, the Brahman effulgence. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord explains his personal race, Brahma Jyoti, the dazzling effulgence of his personal form, in this way. I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal, and is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness. Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan are three aspects of the same absolute truth. Brahman is the aspect most easily perceived by the beginner. Paramatma, the Supersoul, is realized by those who have further progressed. And Bhagavan realization is the ultimate realization of the absolute truth. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 7.7, where Lord Krishna says that he is the ultimate concept of the absolute truth. Matta paratarang nanyat. Therefore, Krishna is the source of the Brahma Jyoti as well as the all-pervading Paramatma. So I'll read something more about this Brahman effulgence. In the spiritual realm, beyond the material covering, is the unlimited Brahman effulgence, which is free from material contamination. That effulgent white light is understood by transcendentalists to be the light of all lights. In that realm, there is no need of sunshine, moonshine, fire, or electricity for illumination. Indeed, whatever illumination appears in the material world is only a reflection of that supreme illumination. That Brahman is in front and in back, in the north, south, east, and west, and also overhead and below. In other words, that supreme Brahman effulgence spreads throughout both the material and spiritual skies. So the example is also given that this Brahman, it is just like the sunshine. The sunshine comes from the sun. And similarly, the source of this Brahma Jyoti, or Brahman, that is the personality of Godhead. It is actually his, the luster emanating from his body. Yes. And I would like also to speak something about the super soul. That is the second stage of realization of the absolute truth. And, yes. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Sarvasya chaham hridisannivishta matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha. That means that I am seated in the hearts of all living entities. And from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So Krishna, he's in the heart of all living entities, and he's regulating what we can remember and what we are forgetting, and what we can understand. This is all regulated by Krishna. So I will say also something about who the super soul is in relationship with Krishna. Because again, God is manifested in so many forms. And he is expanding. It is explained that just like you have a candle with a flame on, with that flame you can ignite other candles, so that there are many, many flames. So there will be many flames, and that does not mean that the original flame will diminish, will get less. You will just have many, many flames. So God is like that. He manifests in so many forms without diminishing his original form. So in the spiritual sky, the original form of God, that is Krishna. That is also confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam, which says, Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. That means Krishna is the original personality of Godhead.